welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming today and being part of this first webinar of Learning Forward Colorado. I'm a little nervous, so just gonna kind of admit that to you. This is a very new experience for me, as it is for all of us. And so when Roberta asked if I could put something together that would be timely for you all, I was certainly excited to do that. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jim Kern. I'm an instructional technology coordinator at Cherry Creek Schools. And we realized that kind of the most important need for you all right now is, now that you've transitioned into this strange world we know is now remote learning, we might need to take a look at how we do things differently and how we make things a little easier for ourselves. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that today. I will have to say this is a very strange environment for me because I feel like, number one, I am talking to my computer. Thankfully, I can see your names on the list. Otherwise, I would think nobody else is out there. But thank you guys for doing that. And also with webinars, I feel like this is a sit and get. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of opportunity for interaction. But just know that this is going to be recorded and that there's always room for follow-up. I'm going to provide my contact information at the end in case you want to get engaged with that. So we'll go ahead and get started. I don't know why this does that. Excuse me. It did this to me before. And of course, now I have to get out of it. All right, here we go. See, you learn a lot of new things when doing webinars. All right, so first thing I want to do is talk to you a little bit about the logistics of Zoom meetings. You all have probably sat through many, many, many Zoom meetings. And so you're probably familiar with these. Please mute your mics and your videos. It helps save your bandwidth as well as mine. You know that if you have spouses or children at home who are also on the internet, the most we can save that bandwidth, the better. So that would be fantastic. Two, if you open up your participants window, you're going to see a list of participants that are in the meeting, but also you're going to see at the bottom some tools, raising hand tool, yes, no, go slower, faster, thumbs up, thumbs down, and waving in the more column. We're going to talk a little bit about those today. We're going to use them a couple times. I like to use those for check for understanding for folks. It's one way I feel like I'm engaging with you a little bit. And then finally, if you open up the chat window, I'm going to have you guys use that chat window to ask any questions that you have. Feel free to ask questions as we go, as I see them. If I feel like they can be explained right there in the moment, I will do so. Otherwise, we have time for a question and answer at the end. So for that, let you know a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jim Kern again. I'm an instructional technology coordinator at Eagle Crest. This is my 23rd year in the district, and during that time, I've worn a lot of hats, mostly as an instructional technology coordinator at both the building and the district level, but it was also worked in the professional learning office at district. I was both a professional learning coordinator and an online professional learning coordinator. So I've had my experiences in this realm too. I am currently an active member of both Learning Forward and Learning Forward Colorado. It's an amazing organization, and I've been part of it since I think about 2007. That's Roberta and I think started the first together in 2007. But I'm also a graduate of the Learning Forward Academy, which is a 2.5-year program that they do around professional development and leadership. So fantastic opportunities if you ever have a chance to engage with the parent company in that manner. That academy is great. So I want to get a little idea of who is in the room right now. So I'm going to look for you all. If you can use the chat box for me, since there is a growing number of us, if you would just, your name is already attached, so you don't have to do that. But if you would type in your job role and level, so whether you're at elementary, middle, high, or whether you're outside of the district in some other capacity, what district or company you work with. And this is a key piece because this is going to be kind of pivotal to our conversation today, the technology systems that your district or school uses. So maybe your learning management system, any tools you use, Microsoft, Google 365, Seesaw, Schoology, Blackboard. So go ahead and type into that chat box if you would. We can kind of all introduce to each other by text. As you all are starting to populate that, I'm doing this primarily, I mean, for a lot of reasons, just to understand who you all are, but I'm trying to make this presentation kind of scope. My experience is all in high school and at district level, but I understand that there are elementary teachers, middle school teachers here today, and so what I'm gonna present and talk to you about, I'm gonna try to make sure that it appeals to all, but there may be situations where you might need to follow up with a question or two, just to talk about how relevant it is to your level. But in my world, you're the expert at your level, and so we can work together to figure out what that looks like together. All right, excellent. Jane, welcome, external operator for 2 districts. Celine, instructional technology coordinator. Rhonda, it's good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Ryan, welcome, Ryan. Ryan, I feel like you could teach this, but fantastic. I'm glad you're here. Nicole, hey, perfect. Seesaw, Zoom, Classroom, Teams. Teams for Microsoft, Schoology, Microsoft. I'm looking for anybody outside the district who might be using something else. Okay. Perfect. I don't know much about Seesaw, so I'm really excited to know from those of you who are using it how it works, and how we can take what we're going to be doing today in with Seesaw. Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and for those of you who didn't get a chance to fill out, you certainly can still, or you can stay silent. That is quite all right. So today's outcomes, we're going to take a look at, we're going to try to understand the current situation for teachers and students. We're in a very strange time. None of us are used to this. Even those of us like myself who spent some years doing online learning for the district, this is still a completely different environment for us because this is not online learning. This is something different. This is crisis teaching, is what I like to call it sometimes. And so we're working in that world of needing to understand our current situation for both our teachers and our students. Want to revisit what's good, what we know about good teaching and learning practices just in general, and looking at ways to keep kids supported and engaged in learning during that time. And so first thing that we need to talk about is our kids. I know that we always focus on ourselves and the personal first, but in this transition, we've got to take a look at who our kids are and what our kids are experiencing right now. And you can see there on the first thing on the list is there's a lot of loss going on. Kids have lost their friends. They no longer can be with their friends on a daily basis. Can't even see them really unless they live next door and they can wave to them. They've lost a routine. We've all lost a routine. And so for kids, that's especially important. And in some cases, students see their teachers and the other kids in school as family, and so they've lost that. And for some students, it's been their only safe space, and so that's a place that they have lost. The challenges that they're facing right now is that they have a completely new learning environment, and they may also be experiencing other external factors that we know nothing about. Financial hardships at home. Parents may have lost work, they may be out of work, too many people in the house. They may be competing for technology with 4 other siblings, or they may not have technology or internet at all. And so we're trying to engage in crisis teaching with our students with all of these factors into play. And so it's important for us to keep the kids in mind when we do that. But we also need to respect and understand what we're experiencing as teachers. And if you look at that list, it's pretty much the same. We've lost contact with our friends. We've lost our routine. In some cases, we've lost our families at school. And our challenges are there as well. It's a new learning environment for us. I don't know if you want to do a little show of hands, how many of you how many of you were thrown into a here's 3 to 4 days to start preparing lessons for your students? That was very strange. And we may have spouses that have lost work. We may experience financial hardships of our own, and this is all leading to stress. And so that's why we tried to put together this piece, this webinar, to kind of help us just recognize that, number one. Sometimes lowering our stress is really just, that's the first step. Just recognizing our situations and the situations of those around us and giving ourselves permission to just kind of let some things go. And so hopefully this webinar will help us kind of take a look at some of that stuff. So what we want to take a look at is what is it we can do right now? We're high strung, we're in a new environment. What can we do right now to keep our kids engaged in learning? Even though we have a lot of these experiences and a lot of these challenges, we want to make sure that our kids are still having that experience, that routine. We want to know what can we do to support our students, how we keep stress low for them, because we know if stress is high for us, stress is high for kids as well. And then we want to make sure that we're keeping our stress low for ourselves. And so how do we go about doing that? So the first thing that we need to start talking about is reestablishing relationships. When you are thrown opportunity in the toolbar under your more column, if you hit record, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, if you can't do that, we'll be fine. I'll take care of it from my other machine. So what systems you have in your schools really are going to determine how you check in with kids. And of course, on my other machine, I have these opportunities and examples for you. But for example, how do you check in with kids on a daily basis? You know, you look around the room, you have them give thumbs up, you have them give high fives, fist to five maybe, 1 to 5, how you doing? How much do you get? Well, in these environments, that you're going to have to figure out different ways. For example, in the Zoom environment, we have in the participants window those keys: the thumbs up, the thumbs down, the waves, and I see a lot of people have those going on. Celine has a yes. I think it's Nicole has a thumbs up. Rhonda has a thumbs up. Roberta has a thumbs up. And so this is a good way to check in with kids. A lot of times we just want to make sure how they're doing. Depending on the tool that you have, almost every one of those tools has some sort of check-in feature. If you're using Pear Deck with kids, they first thing that they do before they sign in is how you doing. So saying, good, thank you, Celine. Saying that finding ways to check in with kids is important. Now, when we've got those low tech, when we don't have a whole lot of technology at our disposals, one of the great things about teachers is that almost every one of us has access to Google in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through our school accounts or through a personal account. And so we can do something as simple as like a Google form, a check-in form, where every day we might send that out to kids and have them fill that out before things start. And I have some examples here that if my computer comes back up, I'm gonna show you. But that's one way to do it, checking in with kids. Another way to do it, you know, we have to consider that not everybody is going to have access to the kinds of technology that we do. In Cherry Creek, I think we're a little better off because we're in a situation where we've been checking out student devices to families that don't have that. And so ideally, we have opportunities for all kids to at least have access to some piece of technology. But also we got to think of the lower tech options, calling kids, calling home, just checking in with kids, not calling in to say you haven't logged in, you haven't done this, but just how are you doing? How are you feeling today? Just maybe 1 or 2 kids a day, or those kids that you see aren't engaging. Those are the kids that we may want to make sure that we connect with. Calls to parents are really important too. Parents are in a situation like we are right now, where they're really struggling with change, struggling to figure out how to be teachers, struggling to support their kids with math that they don't understand, and so they need some help too. And so checking in with parents is pretty key, and saying, what is it that we can do, what that I can do to help you out, and then also promoting self-care. That piece of lowering our stress really does involve self-care. How are we, sorry, my other computer just came back. All right. How are we engaging in self-care ourselves, but how are the kids doing that? Kids sometimes don't understand self-care. And so realizing that it is okay to take care of yourself. It is okay to kind of let something go. It is okay. Kids have to prioritize sometimes, and sometimes teaching kids how to prioritize. Maybe this is more important than that. It's the natural course of things right now. And so helping kids understand what self-care is, and sometimes even just building a self-care plan with them, is pretty important. And so I am going to try to switch over again to my other computer so that I can show you some of these things. Give me 2 seconds. Perfect. Okay, great. Back up and running on that level. Thank you guys for your patience and your understanding of that. So here's an example. Remember when I was talking about that check-in piece? Here's an example of something that a teacher put together to check in with their kids. It's a Google form, like I was talking about, something simple. But what is your name? How are you feeling today? And you notice that this is one of those check boxes. They can feel hungry and anxious, or lonely and tired. But all of these are very valid emotions to talk with kids about, and developing a self-care plan around those could be essential too. Why do you feel that way? How is your digital learning going? We want to make sure that they're feeling okay. How are you planning to, or what are you planning to do today? We know that it's important for kids to have an established structure. And I love this one. If you wish somebody else was checking in with you, who would that be? Because kids, other teachers may not be checking in with them. And so it's good for us to do that and keep that in mind. All right. So back to that model of promoting self-care. The other thing that we need to make aware is that kids need to have those relationships with other kids in their class, that they need to reconnect with those kids. They need to catch up. They need to be able to have conversations with them that are academic, but are also not academic. And so if you have the space and you have the ability within your learning management system or wherever, to build a place for them to engage with each other, free of academic work, but just a way for them to connect. That may be through a discussion board that you set up in your Schoology class, or it may be through a Flipgrid that you put together so that kids can record little videos of themselves for the whole class to see. It may be that you assign some fun activities or challenges for kids to kind of pair up with friends that they may know or may know nearby, that they can not do physically together, but they can collaborate on together. So those are some things that you could probably do to get relationships with kids, but it's important for them to be able to connect with each other outside of that classroom piece. What I do suggest on this is that you pay particular attention to creating spaces that you can not necessarily monitor, but when they engage with each other, there is a record of it. Because as we know, there's always going to be situations where there may be some bullying or there may be some inappropriate language. And if you can create spaces like discussion boards where kids can't modify or delete, or Flipgrids where they can't delete their Flipgrids. There's a record of things that are happening. That kids are more conscious. Of course, it's important to talk to kids too about appropriate communication and how to deal with that. Okay. Here's just a couple of examples if you haven't seen them. The upper left is Flipgrid. It's a really fun way, if you don't know Flipgrid, to have kids record small videos in response to a prompt, or just to record a video for other people to see. The other things on the screen I came across with Schoology. Schoology's offered these for their schools and for their teachers and for all teachers because they're on their website publicly. These are really cute activities that you can have kids work on. They can be team building activities, they can be fun. And the other piece about this too is that they're not all technology based. So we have to remember that we can provide kids with opportunities, even though technology may be the way that they get that opportunity from us. They can do that activity or that opportunity completely offline. And so here's some examples of ways for kids to connect with each other. And the best part about some of these examples is that not only does it help them connect with one another, but it can also relate to your curriculum. So we start to ease into that once kids have that relationships and that sense of security, that you can start easing into learning. And this is a really good way to start that. All right, and I lost it again. All right. This is fantastic. Roberta, would you be willing to take over for a minute while I try to get this going again?
I think it's pretty exciting that Jim is giving us a great modeling of what do you do when things fall apart, because I think all of us have experienced that in the past few days, and having to recover and recover publicly rather than privately. So I appreciate you doing that, Jim. A number of you started answering in the chat what you're doing to connect with families and with students, and how you're helping to ease some of that stress. So I'm wondering if we could hear from more people while Jim gets this up and running. What are some of the things that you are finding success with during this time?
As you guys are continuing to think and type, I really love what Jane had said about giving teachers choice and the freedom to try new tools and support their creativity. I think one of the things right now is that it is a good time for us to try something new. It is a weird time right now, and so take a chance, try something with your kids, be creative, and relax. Don't stress out too much and try to do something different. And I love that Nicole has been trying to connect with families. Obviously, again, there's that relationship piece that that we need with our kids and our families to make those connections.
You know, Roberta and Jim, I just wanted to add something. I had a situation today. This is Jane, and I had a teacher who had uploaded a YouTube video to do a science experiment, and the experiment did not turn out perfect. And she kept that video uploaded, which I thought was amazing for our students, because it showed them that perfection is not what we're aiming for. It's the learning that we're aiming for. And I think that those opportunities for teachers to feel that is really, really important at this time, because our kids need to understand that all of this is new for even the adults.
Absolutely agree with that. Can you see my screen again? Thank you. All right, so this is definitely, I love that you said that, because that's what our teachers do need, and I'm actually going to talk to that a little bit about that.
when we move from that relationship building to the safety and security piece, we want to start also talking to kids about social emotional learning, because it fits into that piece about how kids are ready to learn. And the more social emotional learning we can provide for kids is better. Establishing routines is totally clear. We know how important that is to do in our own physical classrooms, because it just generates so much more success when kids have a routine to follow. And so doing that in the online world or the remote learning world is key too. And maybe that just means the students have to establish a routine at home. What time are you going to do this? What schedule are you going to do? It definitely helps too if they're competing with technology with their siblings as well. And one of the things too that really helps kids feel safe and secure is for you to provide video messages. Jen, you were just mentioning about the teacher who put up a lesson that didn't necessarily go very well. If you're providing video messages for your kids, just checking in even, kids love that. Kids want to see you. I've heard from so many kids that one of the things they miss so much about school is just seeing people and seeing their teachers. And so if you're able to put up just a little video of yourself, morning announcements maybe, a check-in, hey, how are you guys doing? Kids start to feel so much better. Here's an example of one that
Hi there, first and second graders. I hope you're
put together for his first and second grade class. And the theme that he's talking about is the roller coaster of life that they're experiencing right now. And of course, he put this little background up of him in a roller coaster, and it's really just kind of
you're doing well. I know things have been a little like a roller coaster ride with ups and downs lately. I'll be sending home some fun things to do soon. My yuck today is not being in our classroom learning with you. My yeah is spending more time with my dog Luna. So give me a yeah.
Could you guys hear that? I don't know if you could hear that audio coming from my computer. But one of the things he talked about, not only is he just checking in with his kids, but one of the things he talked about was his yuck for the day and his yeah for the day. And I really like that that's, again, one of those routines that he's working on with his kids, the yuck for the day and the yeah for the day. And not only is that great in the classroom, it's great at home too for kids. So things to think about. So after you've established all of that, good relationships and helping kids to feel safe and secure, they're now ready to learn. And so we have to take a look at how we're teaching and learning differently. And so we have to change. This isn't the face-to-face classroom anymore. We're not working with kids on a daily basis. And so things have to change. And so one of the things that you start to look at with your lessons is kids are not in your classroom, they're in life's classroom right now. And so a lot of the learning that's happening tends to be a little more exploratory and self-paced for kids, which is good. It's fine. It actually gives kids more opportunity to think critically. And we want them to be making other connections that aren't just from the classroom. And so it is good for them to be able to have that opportunity to explore. And then it's also important that they reflect upon that. When we look at that critical thinking and reflection piece of learning, that is really where deep learning happens. And so this is a good thing for us. Perhaps after we've gone through all of this and we get back to that face-to-face classroom, we'll start to think about how that goes and what we might be doing differently for kids in the face-to-face classroom. We also too, as teachers, to lower our stress, have to think about, yes, we still need to be designing rigorous instruction, but we also need to be supporting kids. And what's more important in weird times like this, can you sacrifice rigor just a little bit if it means supporting your kids a little more? Definitely. And so it's important to think about that too. Every school has gotten a different directive about how much work they're supposed to be giving kids. And it's okay. It's okay for you as a teacher, reduce your stress to say, I'm going to reduce the amount of work that I'm expecting from my kids every week. Because especially at the secondary level where they have so many teachers, you don't know how much the other teachers are doing. I know of a teacher who's providing a different assignment every day for kids and expecting them to do a different assignment every day for kids. And that's too much. And that's just one teacher. And so we do need to be able to sacrifice some of that and just support our kids more, and be available for them. And most importantly, ask them how you can help. What's going on with you? How can I help you? It's really critical to making that happen. So how do we do this? You know, we're living in a world where we have to have some sort of technology to deliver our content to students. And so one thing that you need is you need a place to host your content. And in some cases it's Schoology, in some cases it's Seesaw, and in some cases it may just be I'm a teacher and I've created a Google site. But what's important when we think about consistency and routine with kids is that we have one place that they go for all of their learning, to access all of their information. And then if you direct them out of that one place to work on various things, that's okay. We want to take a look at that central hub that is so important for them. It's just like your classroom. They always come to the same room every day. If you moved to a different classroom every single day, kids would get lost. And so we don't want to have that happen. Also, some basic tools in our toolbox for you as a teacher to have. If you have your basics, Microsoft or Google, you're sitting pretty with this. We can design some great learning for students, all just with Google, and we'll talk about what that looks like. And then flexibility. You may not know this, but for those of you emergenetics folks, I am first third flexible, and so the things that have been happening to me today are really stretching me and causing me to I'm going to be tired. Let's just say I'm going to be tired when this is all over. But that is something that we need to be sure of. We need to be flexible with kids. We need to have backups. Right now, we're experiencing things with teachers where they're doing Google assignments in Schoology, and for 10% of the kids, they can't access the information. And I have teachers coming to tell me to fix it. Can you fix this? Can you fix this? Well, I don't work for Schoology, so no, I can't fix it. It's important for us to say, and be okay with kids to say, okay, you can't turn it into me that way. Let's find another way for you to turn it into me, for you to demonstrate that learning. When we have kids at home and the only thing they have is their mom or dad's cell phone, how can we accommodate for them to demonstrate their learning with the tools that they have? Is it just that they record a video, they record themselves a video, that they take pictures of some of the work that they've done and email those to us? Yeah, absolutely, that's important. And so giving kids options and giving yourself options really helps lower your stress. And it also, I think you'll find it also, once you open up the possibility for kids to choose different ways to demonstrate their learning, that's what we really want in the classroom anyhow. And so it's a good thing to kind of keep that in mind as far as that flexibility goes. Remember, non-tech centered kids. You can send an email to students with a description of an assignment that they don't have to use technology at all to do. And so keep that in mind as well. Just because we're delivering in an online world doesn't mean that they have to use technology to do those assignments. So think about what your low-tech options for kids are, or what your no-tech options for kids are. Just the same way we wouldn't have the kids do the exact same thing in the physical classroom every single day. We want to mix it up for kids too in this remote learning environment for us. So how do we create some lessons? How do we go about making those lessons that we are going to be able to design for students that are engaging, that help them think critically, that allow them to explore, that allow them to reflect? Number one, lower your stress by using your resources. Do not invent the wheel. Talk to your teammates. See what kinds of things they have. Look online. See what kinds of things are available there. I am, number one, absolutely the worst at this. I feel like I have to create everything myself. I feel like I have to do a YouTube video to show you how to create something in Google when there's 8 billion videos out there that do the exact same thing. Lower your stress by finding content that already exists that's relevant to your lesson and using that. It's going to make things a lot easier for you, and then you can share with other people on your team to help alleviate the stress there. Remember to collaborate with folks. and not feel like you have to be the only person doing this. We're all in this together. Things to think about when you're designing lessons for students at this time: keep your instructions clear and simple, one thing at a time. I like to think about statements with verbs in them. If your statement has more than one verb in it, it probably shouldn't be one statement. You should break it up into two. That way kids get a really clear picture of what's expected of them. Try to keep kids, make sure the kids are engaged in the material, not just consumers. Just like you are right now, you're sitting and listening. We want to make sure that kids are not only learning, that they are then interacting with what they've learned, and then creating or reflecting upon what they've learned. So you're going to design lessons that are very small in size. You're going to little bites for kids to learn. I don't know what computer I'm on at this point. One way to do that is you can create some videos. Just record an audio video. You can do that with your phone. You have one of those. Or you can use a tool on your machine called the screencasting tool, and we can talk about what those are. There's a variety of them. I'm going to send out a bunch of them and resources via email after this. But when you record audio and video, it's good for all of our students. Number one, they like to see you and hear you, but they can then go back and listen to it over and over again. Our kids who might need extra processing time, our English language learners, all can benefit from the video that you send out. So think about that. And then this goes back to what Jane was talking about. When you mess up, when you're recording a video and you flub and you do oohs and ums, kids see that. Kids see that in the classroom every day. They're used to it. So they want you to be a real person. I saw a teacher, one of my teachers posted that it took her 6 hours to record a 5-minute video because she kept messing up. I was just like, oh, go with it. Just forget about those mistakes. Do the oohs and ums. If your kids don't see you as a person who makes mistakes, that's what we should be teaching kids, how to accept the mistakes and learn from them and move on. And so those are some tips that you want to include when you're creating videos. Kind of keep it low stress. You don't want to really focus on too much pain and perfection. How do we go about creating those videos? Like I said, you have a phone with a video camera, or you have a computer with a webcam on it. There's a still image right there of a teacher who just set up her phone in front of her and started recording her lesson on the whiteboard. It is as easy as that if you want to have your face in there. The one at the bottom, which I just talked about, a screencasting tool. A screencasting tool is something that records what is happening on your screen as you do it. And if you see very down in that bottom corner, there's a little pop-out window of me talking to my students, talking them through that lesson. And so again, it's a way for kids to experience the instruction, but also see you and engage with you. And so screencasting tools, I'm sure you're all familiar with them right now. There's Screencastify, there's Screencast-O-Matic, there's Loom, there's lots of different ones. And I can send you out, I'll be sending those out as resources as well. Now, I think the most engaging and powerful tool right now when we're designing lessons for students is doing something that's called a hyperdoc. When we talk about providing a one-stop shop for kids, or that one central hub, providing a hyperdoc for kids gives them one place to go to access all they need for the lessons. And so a hyperdoc technically is just a document or an image that's interactive that students can click on. And depending on what they click on, will take them to various places. These things are fantastic because they are K-12. If I have a kid who's a kindy or a first grader and is not a reader and can't write, they can still see the images or the pictures on the screen and understand what to do. Maybe they're familiar with numbers, and so you have 1, 2, 3, and they just click on 1, 2, 3 in that order. And they may hear a video of you, or they may hear an audio file. As you start to get into higher levels, you can see this one at the bottom, Extreme Weather Choice Board. Kids are learning about 5 different kinds of weather, and they watch videos and read articles about them. You could do so many things with this. Differentiate by content for kids. Pick 1 or 2 of the weather conditions that you want to learn about, and then you're going to report to the rest of the class, or create something to demonstrate what you've learned. So there's so many opportunities for that with HyperDocs, and that's one thing that I love about HyperDocs so much. They are one thing, one screen that kids can click on and go to so many different areas. Just a quick definition of what a HyperDoc is and what a HyperDoc isn't. A HyperDoc is transformative, interactive, personalized, engaging, and a tool to help facilitate student creativity and collaboration. And yes, all of those things are true. Technically, a HyperDoc should have both instruction and assessment in it, ways for students to do that. This is a HyperDoc is not a substitution of digital worksheet. We all know that in a transition from one state to another, we have to go through some middle ground. And so as we're starting to do this, I'm creating a HyperDoc that is a substitution, that is standardized, that may not include an assessment in there, is okay, because we're going to start to move into that more transformative area as we go through. And again, here's another slide that has information about what HyperDocs are and are not, or the difference between a HyperDoc and a doc with hyperlinks. But really what focuses on it down here is this, how students are connecting with what they're learning and how they're demonstrating their knowledge. And so those are the kinds of lessons and learning that we're going to be really focused on with kids. I don't want to go to the Q&A quite yet. I want to switch right now to my other computer and show you a couple examples of what a HyperDoc looks like in action. All right, so here you see this one. This is the one that I just talked about, the extreme weather choice board. So it gives kids the opportunity to click on this and it'll open up a YouTube video, or click down here and it'll open up an article for them to read. And so that's one of the different ways that you could do that. This one is a little more directed for kids. It gives them choice in how they're going to learn about weather versus climate. They can either do that by watching a video, they can do it by reading an article, or by playing a game. And then it gives them a choice in how they're going to demonstrate their learning. And so all of these things can be done. Write a paragraph. A student can do that on a sheet of paper with a pencil, and then email it to you, take a picture of it, send it in, however. Okay. So various options here, but giving kids options and giving yourself the freedom to let kids demonstrate their learning in a variety of ways is pretty key here. Here's another example, and these two were done in Google Drawing. They can also be done very similarly to this in Google Slides, but this is done in Google Drawing. Here's one in Google Slides. It's a little higher level. This is on a unit for the teachers for Unbroken. It's World War II content. And they use the term WebQuest, which I think is an old term, but that's there. And so you see kids can learn about the different aspects of World War II here by clicking on any of these icons. So again, we're taking kids to one central place and then having them explore and learn. Here's one on the Outsiders. So kids can learn about life in the 60s. They can look at images, explore that way. And then here's different ways that they can learn or demonstrate their learning through scavenger hunts, through all of these different options. And this is just a one sheet that the teacher sends out to the students, and then the students can explore from there. So that is what I wanted to share from this angle. I would love to just spend time teaching you all how to do a HyperDoc, because I actually did that today with some folks, and I do have a recording of that actually worked. So I'd be happy to send that out too, along with the resources that I sent. But I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to switch back to my other computer. Okay. This is a wonderful world I'm living in here. All right. So back to question and answers. I've been talking at you for a really long time, and I really feel like you've gotten a lot of choppy information from me because of all of these pieces. But I do want to talk to you about the kinds of things that you've seen, the kinds of environments that you're living in, how you think that this might help you as a person who supports teachers, or how this might help you as a teacher yourself to get us through. I'm seeing. Okay, Jay. Now I definitely will send out the information to create a hyperdoc for sure. I did probably a 45-minute webinar on that today for my staff, so I will definitely send that out in the information. A lot of it is some of the stuff that you saw here today too. Virtual field trips and the hyperdoc. Yeah, virtual field trips are fantastic. Nicole's talking about virtual field trips with the hyperdoc. We do have a social studies group in our building that has a virtual art museum, and they have the students create that collaboratively, so every student gets a time period and a culture to research, and kids have to find art from that culture and hang it in their exhibit room in their virtual museum. It's a pretty neat project, and it's all done with hyperdoc type of technology. If you have any questions too, feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat box as well. And then as you're doing that, Jane, I would love to talk to you. It looks like the bulk of this recording is going to be on your Zoom account, so I'd love to touch base with you and see how we might be able to transfer that from you to me. Does anybody want to pipe in verbally with the microphone? Feel free to do so. Go ahead and turn on your microphone and ask anything you might want, or share out something that you've seen teachers do, or some strategies that you've seen the teachers are lowering their own stress or their students' stress. All right. I don't know what silence means in some cases, whether it's people have fallen asleep or they're golden. I think things are fantastic, but you are very welcome, Stephen. Again, I'm gonna send out some follow-up materials for you, and then as we're going forward with these webinar series, anytime you have a chance, I'm gonna include in the email survey, a feedback survey for you all. So that we can get an idea of how things are going, but also it's going to include on there some suggestions that you have. Just like you had, we're able to add suggestions for topics when you signed up. The feedback sheet will have that as well. We want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. So if you start seeing things like, oh, I want to learn how to do Screencastify to make a video with us, I want to learn how to do hyperdocs, all of those things are totally perfect. Please submit those. John, do you have a question?
No, just listening in. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You're the only one with mic on, so I knew it had to be you.
I just saw that.
Nicole, Monday at 10:30. I'm not sure what Monday at 10:30 is, but I'd be glad to join you.
I'm supporting teachers making virtual field trips, and this would be awesome for you to like show us real live with people.
Perfect. I may need to cut that a little short because I will have a live PD. I do my live PDs every day at 11. So,
Okay.
But if I'm happy to do that from 10 to 10:30 to 11 with you.
Okay, I'll send you an invite. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Roberta. So everybody, thank you so much for participating today and your flexibility with all the technology issues that we've had. But I appreciate that, and I know Roberta appreciates that as well. Just want to make sure that you think of two things before you go, before you leave. Think about two things that you learned today that you're gonna. What are you gonna do as a result of your learning today? Try to commit to two things. What we know in professional learning is that if you don't commit to doing something within a week, you generally don't do it and you lose that learning. So make sure that you have committed to 2 things. And then I mentioned what I was going to send you. Here's my contact information. You'll also have that on the email invitation for this webinar today. But feel free to contact me if you have any questions or any follow-up, or even respond to the email that I send you afterward, and we can chat. Thank you guys so much for all your help. This was quite the learning experience for me as well. I know Nicole's webinar upcoming is going to be a lot more smooth than this. So we'll work out the bugs and make sure that that's the case. All right, thank you guys so much for coming and attending. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions.